Kira from the Fish Gals here. Today I'm going to show you how to clean a basic aquarium. This is one of our low-tech aquariums and it's just fairly low maintenance and it just needs a good clean. We get a lot of questions about how to clean aquariums from newbies, and if you're a newbie, welcome. It's not that hard, just basics of everything. Cleaning your fish, remember, don't clean it with fresh water from the tap. Make sure you always use aquarium water to clean everything that's inside the aquarium. Otherwise you're getting rid of all the beneficial bacteria and destroying the nitrogen cycle. So let's go and have a look.
We'll need a water change system like the Python system or something similar like this. A lot of towels because it gets messy. Some buckets. I like to use a thermometer. This is an infrared thermometer. It's not very accurate. I wouldn't rely on it for checking your fish every day. But for changing the water it's good because you can check what the temperature of the water in the tank is and then match your tap water to match it. This glass scrubber, which is got a nice blade on it, just a plastic blade for scraping the algae off. It's magnetic and it's got a nice scrubby on the inside to clean the glass as well. It's not really good for really tough algae stains, but just your everyday stains it's great, and it just, this bit stays on the outside, this bit goes on the inside, and it cleans everything nicely for you. If you've got really tough algae stains you'll need either a blade, something like this. You can get them in most pet shops, or just a normal regular Stanley blade. Just be careful of your fingers. Sometimes I like to use this one for the back wall. It's just a scrubber. It did come with a stick attached, but I lost it. So for the back wall it's great. On the side walls just stick your hand in and scrub it down. If you don't have one of them, just an ordinary sponge scrubber will do, but make sure that it only ever is used for fish stuff. If you don't have a Python-like system, then you are just going to be using buckets and a strainer just to make sure the water when it's going into the tank doesn't disturb your substrate. And tubing. This is a nice siphon starter so you don't have to start sucking the fish water out. It's gross. And a gravel vac for the bottom of the tank just to get all the gunge up off it, and of course to fill it back up you'll need a watering can. I find a watering can is much better than buckets because I can control the flow of it, and I don't like to lift things that are too heavy, so this is only a 10-litre water bucket. But again, this has to be used only for fish. Don't ever use it for anything else. And then at the end I like to just go over the glass with a bit of newspaper just to shine it up nicely. So, newspaper, Python system, buckets, towels, thermometer, and glass cleaners, and a gravel vac.
So I always like to turn off the filter. You don't have to turn off the filter if your water level isn't going down below the filter, but it tends to get really noisy and pushes all the dirt around, so I like to turn off the filter. I also have to turn off the heater so that it doesn't crack when the water level goes down too low. So always make sure you turn off your heater definitely, and filter if you want to, but if you're doing filter maintenance then you definitely need to turn off your filter. Buckets, gravel vac. So that particular siphon starter doesn't actually work with this particular gravel vac, so you need to use a slightly smaller hose for this particular one. But I don't usually use the siphon starter. I generally use the Python system for this tank because it's so big. So if you're gravel vacuuming, always pop the gravel vac right in. And start recycling the bucket. I like to disturb the substrate a little bit just to make sure that there's no ammonia pockets in the substrate, but with this kind of gravel, and especially because I've got corridors in it, it doesn't really build up pockets because it's a light substrate. It's a very thin layer and the corridors keep it shaking around anyway, and the plecos do too. So because I use the Python system, I only use the gravel vac into the bucket for just to fill 1 bucket or 1.5 buckets. And then I use the water that's in those buckets to clean out the filter materials. So if you're doing it without a Python system and just the old bucket method, then you're going to have to just keep emptying your buckets and running in and out, and it's time consuming. So with a tank this size, I would always say get yourself a Python system or a hose system or something that takes the water out automatically for you, just to save you back and time. It just takes up so much time getting buckets running back and forwards. If it's only a small tank, like a 50 or 60 litre, or maybe even up to 100 litre, because really most weeks you'll only do a 25% water change. You'll only do a 50% water change if there's something wrong with the tank, or it's exceptionally dirty, or you've been treating it for something. But if you're just doing a weekly water change and it's a small tank, buckets are fine. But on larger tanks, definitely get yourself a Python or a hose system. And then before I go and drain out any more of the water, I'm going to make sure that I clean up everything in the tank, so that when the water's coming out, all the dirty stuff from inside the tank is coming with it. So I'll clean the glass now and scrape it down and make sure there's no algae. But there's not really a lot of algae in this tank because it's fairly well maintained, but some of my other tanks will have a good bit of algae. So just make sure when you're doing this down at the bottom of the tank that you don't actually pick up any of the gravel between the blade and the glass, otherwise you will scratch your glass. Draining, I like to use just some newspaper just to clean. So before you add any water to your aquarium, make sure that you use a dechlorinator or prime or API stress-ime or something like that. Something that makes sure that there are no heavy metals and no chlorine or chloramine in the water, because chlorine and chloramine are highly toxic to fish and will kill them within about half an hour. So I use this Microbe Lift Extreme. It removes ammonia, nitrate, heavy metals and chlorine. You add it to the tank when you are adding any water, adding new fish, if you have an ammonia spike. It's fairly similar to Seachem Prime, but it's not as expensive. So the dose for this is 10 mils per 100 litres of water. This tank is roughly 200 litres, so I'll add 20 mils. I like to add it half and half, so I add about 10 mils in just before I start the water change, and another 10 mils in just before, about halfway through. So with all of these, make sure you give them a good shake, just to mix it all up, and then add it in. So I'm just going to have a cup of tea and wait for it. Thanks
for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the subscribe button just below this video. Follow us on Facebook, The Fish Gals, facebook.com/thefishgals, or check out our website, thefishgals.ie. Thanks, guys.